Talent, training, technique, they're all absolutely essential for success in sports. But there's this other kind of invisible force at play that really turns potential into peak performance: motivation. Okay, so let's dive into this and really unpack the science behind what gets us moving and, more importantly, keeps us going.
It's a great question, isn't it? And so often, it just comes down to that inner fire. It's not only about who wants to win, but why they want it so badly. What's driving them through all that grueling day-in, day-out training?
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out what motivation actually is. Then, we'll get into the two different engines that can power your drive and, a surprising risk of relying too much on one of them. After that, we'll give you the smarter blueprint, a proven plan for success. We'll also cover some simple hacks to keep that fire fueled on the tough days. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see how this stuff translates to real-world performance.
Okay, first things first. Before we can even think about harnessing motivation, we need to have a really crystal clear idea of what we're actually talking about. So here's the bottom line. Motivation isn't some simple switch you just flip on. It's better to think of it as a combination of forces. That internal voice that pushes you forward and the external rewards that kind of pull you along. It's the reason you get off the couch, and it's the compass that directs all your actions. It is the why behind every single rep, every lap, and every practice session.
Now here's where it gets really, really interesting. This drive, it actually comes from two very different places. And honestly, understanding these two sources is the absolute key to unlocking consistent, long-term motivation.
So on one hand, you've got intrinsic motivation. This is the stuff that comes from inside you for the pure love of the game. And on the other hand, you've got extrinsic motivation, which is all about the outside factors, the rewards and recognition you get from the world around you.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you see that internal fire, the simple joy you get from playing, the pride you feel seeing your fitness improve, that deep satisfaction of mastering a really difficult skill. Then on the right, you have the external payoffs. We're talking prize money, medals, or just hearing your coach say, "Great job." Now, both are powerful, no doubt. But here's the catch. Some studies show that if you rely too heavily on those extrinsic rewards, it can sometimes actually kill the intrinsic joy of doing something. It's a phenomenon called the overjustification effect.
Yep, trophies. The classic example of extrinsic motivation, right? They're a physical, external symbol of success, and they work. There's no question about it. But it's really important to remember that these outside rewards aren't always something you can physically hold.
See, extrinsic rewards can also be intangible. Just think about the roar of the crowd, or a simple word of praise from a coach you really respect, or getting public recognition for your hard work. These are all powerful external drivers, for sure, but their effect can sometimes be temporary. The real, sustainable fire, that often has to come from within. Okay, so we get the what and the why of motivation now. But how do you actually use it? Well, the answer lies in having a concrete plan, which brings us to the smarter goal blueprint.
One of the single most effective techniques out there is setting goals. But, and this is a big but, we're not talking about just any goals. We're talking about smarter goals. It's a framework that's specifically designed to give you clarity, focus, and a real roadmap to success.
So let's break this down. First, S is for specific. Don't just say, "I want to get better." Say something like, "I want to shave 0.2 seconds off my 100-meter sprint time." See the difference? Next, M for measurable. You need a way to track it, like with a stopwatch. A is for achievable. Do you have access to a track, a coach, the right gear? And R is for realistic. Is that 0.2-second improvement a challenging but ultimately reachable target for you right now?
And the framework continues. T is for time-related. You got to give yourself a deadline, say, in the next 6 weeks, to create that sense of urgency. The E? Well, this one is crucial. The goal must be exciting to you. If you're not genuinely passionate about it, your intrinsic motivation just won't kick in. And finally, R for recorded. Write it down, seriously. Put it on your wall, make it your phone's background. This simple act makes the goal feel real and helps hold you accountable.
So why is this whole smarter thing so powerful? Well, it's because it gives your training a clear direction. It tells you exactly what to do and when. It helps you stay focused by filtering out all the other distractions. And maybe most importantly, it lets you take a huge, intimidating ambition and break it down into small, manageable steps, which is key for keeping your motivation high along the way. So smarter goals are your blueprint for sure, but you also need some strategies to keep that motivational fire burning day in and day out, especially when things get tough.
Here are a few really powerful techniques. First, find ways to make your training fun. This taps directly into that intrinsic drive we talked about. Second, introduce a little friendly competition to sharpen your focus. Third, use short-term goals as stepping stones. Just focus on winning today's session, not just the championship way down the line. And finally, and this one might be the most important, you have to acknowledge your progress.
You've got to celebrate your wins. Acknowledge the progress you're making. Whether it's hitting a new personal best or just showing up to practice when you really didn't feel like it, recognizing that success reinforces the behavior and builds incredible momentum.
Okay, so we've defined it, we've dissected it, and we've learned how to build it. But what's the ultimate payoff? What happens when you successfully keep your motivation high?
Well, this is where it all comes together in this really powerful chain reaction. Your motivation gets you to show up day after day. Showing up consistently allows you to train with real intensity. That consistent, intense training builds your overall fitness. And that fitness, that's what ultimately translates into peak performance when it really counts. So, if there's one crucial thing to take away from all of this, it's this. Motivation is not some magical quality that you either have or you don't. It's a skill. It's a system of internal and external drivers that you can understand, you can balance, and you can strengthen over time with the right tools and the right techniques.
So by understanding the difference between your internal drive and those external rewards, and by applying a framework like Smarter Goals, you're no longer just sitting around waiting for motivation to strike. You are actively building it. So the real question is, now that you have the blueprint, what's the first specific, measurable, and exciting goal you're going to build for yourself?